Hi, I'm going to share what happened when a group of us got together through the coronavirus crisis and did something that we never thought we would have done before we met. And I'm also going to share a bit about what we learned along the way. So this is us, and this is what we did. And we launched in April on Earth Day, which, if you cast your mind back, was only about a month into lockdown. And that's me on the bike on one of our first traders that we work with. And this is where we are, Chorlton in South Manchester. An area of about 3.5 square miles that we covered. We weren't rigid about it. But if you remember back then, there was lots of groups springing up, lots of people shielding, people couldn't leave their houses. And here are some of the other riders, all the volunteers that we work with. There's about 15 of us now. And here are some of the traders. So all sorts of independent traders in Chorlton. Post office, that's Reach Out, homeless charity, chocolate shop, bookshop, cheese shop. Everything that you could want is in Chorlton. Takeaways, that's AJ Adams, the veg shop. We work with all the co-ops in Chorlton and pharmacies, and also Unicorn, the quite well-known vegan supermarket, which is based in Chorlton. And here are some of our customers. As you can see, some of them were older people, people shielding, people with younger families who perhaps couldn't get out so easily. And how did we get started? Because none of us had ever done anything like this before. We got hold of some cargo bikes on a fairly good deal loan, and we put in place a few basic things like a web page, a Facebook page. We decided what it was we were going to offer that we could do, and then we just reached out and contacted all the local traders, all the food banks, and also all the street groups that had grown up in Chorlton. And that took about 3 weeks, which isn't very long. What we didn't have was any of these things. We didn't have insurance. We thought, well, if the shopping gets stolen or lost, then we'll cover that ourselves. And also, it wasn't what I'd call a delivery ready market, in that most traders in Chorlton didn't and largely still don't take phone or internet orders, which meant we had to work our way around that, because we were doing the shopping for people wasn't something that we thought was a good thing for us to do, because that would mean we could do less deliveries. And with hindsight, we also had a lot of these things. I think the most important one here was that last one, which is that we didn't have any fear of failure. We weren't setting up a business. We wanted to do something to do our bit in the community. And that gave us, I guess, a real sense of empowerment and just go for it. A real lesson in just getting on with something. But we also had a sense of why we were doing it. You know, everyone who joined the group, and we really found each other, I think, through the project, wanted to do this to support our local traders, to help the community, but also because of this belief in walking and cycling as a way to reduce carbon emissions from transport. We make those shared values really visible in everything we do. And those values include the principles of mutual aid, which are about communities helping each other, us helping the community, and the community helping us. So looking back, what have we achieved? Well, we've ridden about 70 miles a week between us, and we've delivered hundreds of meals and hundreds of lots of shopping around Chorlton and the area. And we think we've saved about the equivalent of 20 trees worth of CO2 a year. This is what it cost us. So we did have to spend money, but we were able to recoup a lot of that money through small grants that, again, none of us knew existed before we did this, but there are little pots of money out there, some of them through COVID, but not all. And last month we did a survey, and we were, really pleased to hear some of these comments, because it felt like a validation of what we'd done. and also, support for our values, our ideals of trying to introduce greener ways of travel, but also ideas and insight into shopping habits. People saying that their shopping habits had definitely changed. They didn't want to go back to shopping in large supermarkets or supporting national brands. They wanted to support local. And some ideas, such as this one, around how we could collect shopping from different shops, or how we could support more online shopping and then delivery. So those are some of the things that we're exploring now. So looking further ahead, what next? Well, we've done a bit of a brainstorm as a group, and these are some of the things that we'd love to achieve. So we'd love to actually carry on supporting local traders and make sure that people shop locally. If they do, that's good for our businesses and our sense of community, but also it's good for the environment because that means less transport. Our goal is to try and reduce emissions from transport. That accounts for about a third of direct carbon emissions in Manchester, and that proportion is going up. So if we can reduce our cars, how many journeys we take, that makes a big impact. We've already had a couple of people get in touch and ask us for tips on how we did it because they'd like to do something similar. So we're really hopeful that other schemes can get going. So those are our goals, and what are we actually doing about them? We've got now more of a commercial arm, and that we do via effectively a trader affiliation scheme, and traders pay us a small amount, and when we deliver for them whenever they like. We've still got our charity and community arm, which is effectively a sort of pay-as-you-feel service, and we have also moved to what we call as soon as delivery. So we'll have staffing up, if you like, a rota through the week. So you could phone up now and see if we're available to do a job. We've got lots of future ideas. We think veg boxes could be something that works on a delivery bike. Healthcare, there's a lot of things that move around the local healthcare market that could be done on a delivery bike. And training, we've had lots of people get in touch with us who aren't big cyclists and wanted to get into cycling, and we think we could perhaps offer some training around that, and lots more ideas. And we bought our own cargo bike. This is Troy. We love Troy because not just it looks like our logo, but also it means we've been able to cut some of those higher costs. And we're also formalising our operation. So one of the ways we're doing that is we've joined the Federation of European Cycle Co-ops, which we never knew existed, but it does. And that includes access to a free platform that we're investigating if we can use to act as a dispatch software. And we're also investigating how to become a viable concern. We're not in it for the money, but we do need to cover our costs, and also some of our ambitions include being able to pay riders a living wage so that cycle delivery is actually a valid career choice in our local community. And the Hive is a service that the Co-op UK offers, and I really recommend it. 6 to 8 days of business support. So through all that, we've been assessing what we learned. We thought we'd share our top 10 tips. So here goes. So the first one is really just get going as quickly as you can with whatever you have. If we'd have sat around making a clever plan, that would have taken us months. And ultimately, getting going is the best way of learning about your market, especially if you don't know about your local economy. And secondly, what that does is it means that you're open to opportunities. There are lots of things that happen to us that we never would have realised were out there. If we'd had a fixed plan, we wouldn't have spotted those opportunities. Having said that, sort a few basics. So one of that for us was a few systems to just make sure we were capturing and measuring key stuff, which included things like rider data, how far, how many deliveries, no fancy software needed. And also pictures, images, video of what you're doing, because you will want to tell your story. There's a brilliant TED talk, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And we've totally found that to be true. And what we found was that people who supported why we were doing what we were doing would find a way to work with us, even if it wasn't straightforward, because they wanted to support what we were doing. During lockdown, we offered a free service, and we still do, but we also have now put in place a sort of cost recovery system. And we found that as lockdown eased, traders perhaps were a little less comfortable, because they were making some money from their service. So we're clear about what it's costing us, and then we put that out there, and then people can contribute. You may have lived in an area for many, many years, but until you've experienced it as an economy and you start to understand the supply chain and the food supply chain, you won't know what the opportunities are, and you won't know the individual relationships that you can build and the opportunities. One of the things that we discovered was the really shocking world of underground food, and how millions of people need to use food banks to get by. And this is true in Manchester as much as, more so than anywhere else. There's more than 100,000 children in Manchester at risk of malnutrition because of low incomes, and that was before COVID. So we've ultimately ended up doing quite a lot of work with local food banks, and that will continue. We found that by becoming part of the local economy, we can have a different conversation with traders about perhaps reducing parking or moving away from vehicle deliveries. And that's been really interesting. If you're part of a group rather than outside it, then the conversation is very different. And that is also true for the climate crisis. Our deliveries have literally opened the door to the climate conversations with people, hundreds of people across Chorlton. People actually love the cargo bikes. If you cycle down your high street on a cargo bike, people will turn heads, kids will point and laugh, and that is wonderful. But the other thing we found is that we've still got a steady stream of people volunteering to ride, and a lot of those people are not experienced cyclists. There's a sense of purpose offered here, so it's not just cycling for your own benefit, but you're doing something for the community. And lastly, we found that this really happened because of the connection between the 5 of us that got it going, and we were on the same wavelength, and we wanted to do this because it reflected our values. And we decided early on that we wouldn't worry too much about whether we should be doing this or that. We basically focused on the things that brought us excitement and joy and pleasure. And if you're going to do this in your own time, which we were and are, then it's got to be something that really motivates you. Looking further ahead, the growth of online shopping means that up to 15% of traffic now is vans, and a lot of that is delivering shopping. And so cargo bikes could replace a small but significant amount of that, which would help reduce carbon emissions and congestion and pollution. And one way that that would happen is through these things called freight consolidation centres, whereby long haul packages are delivered by lorries, but they're brought to these centres on the edges of cities and then taken to their end destination by sustainable means such as electric vehicles or electric bikes. This is really exciting, and we really hope this is going to happen in the UK, and that in South Manchester we could be a partner in any scheme to do that. There was good news for this in the recent gear change report, which could be one of the few good things that the government has done in the last 6 months, which was a big, ambitious new strategy around cycling and walking in England, and explicit mention of cargo bikes within that, including 1 or 2 pilots. So that's really exciting. And of course, cargo bikes did get a mention in the introduction to that new strategy. Of course, you can't deliver a fridge freezer on a cargo bike, but you can deliver plenty of other goods that currently come in diesel vans. We'd like to take issue with that because we think that actually what we've discovered is that you can deliver a fridge freezer on a cargo bike, and a lot more besides. Thanks for listening, and good luck with any schemes that you're trying to get off the ground. There's my details at the bottom. Do get in touch.